we all do, and like this is what I did, is we listen to all the health experts, listen to all the podcasts, we read the books, and this stuff is incredible. It's very much needed. And then we must then ultimately go about attempting to actually implement, vis-a-vis patching together our own solutions.
All right, guys, got Larry English here today. Let's go.
Yes,
Legend.
sir. Let's
got the rings on too.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Go. What's new with you, man?
Not much, man. I'm, loving this chapter of life, building businesses, starting a young family. I got a 2-year-old.
Congrats.
My wife and I have been together a lot of years, but we held off on taking the plunge and having kids, but it's kind of been the best thing in the world. Like, especially as a kind of a bravado, masculine man to go and have a little daughter. She softened me up a lot. So it's been a beautiful thing, man, getting in touch with that side.
Love it. Did you hold off for business reasons?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I retired from playing ball, I was like really focused on building business and figuring out like what is my next act, and really motivated in that realm. So I kind of had a singular point of focus. So for that reason, I held off. I mean, looking back on it now that I have kids, I think back to all of the players on the squad, like in my day, that were married with children while we were doing it, like while we had training camp, while we were, going deep into the playoffs and the season and things of that nature. And I got so much respect for those guys that are able to do it, like while you're actually playing. It's crazy. It's such an incredible commitment. It's the most challenging thing in the world, but it truly is one of the most incredible experiences you can have.
I love that. I can't wait, man. Soon for me. Turning 28, getting married this year.
Okay.
So I'm thinking within the next few years, man.
Yeah, congrats, man.
Thanks, dude.
It's a beautiful thing, and you and your fiance and wife, the soon to be, take your time and like have the initial, courtship and like have fun with that. But then when you're ready, it's definitely worth it.
I love it. Did you have a plan when you retired, or was it all just so quick that you kind of had to improvise?
So look, it's funny you asked that as it relates to like kind of having a plan, because I don't necessarily think I had a plan. It was more so one of these scenarios where I had not only gotten to the league, but had entered the league as a first-round draft pick. This is coming from someone who historically was more so always, I felt an underdog in my life, right? So to then come into the realm of the NFL, this lifelong dream, to not only actualize it and materialize it, but like to become the first-round draft pick ever to come out of my university, it was like a next level experience, right? But through that 7 years of playing in the NFL, things happen. Your body gets beat up. I started to get a little fatigued, and more so than necessarily having a plan, I think subconsciously is like, from a bodily perspective, I was looking for an exit. I was looking for like what the next chapter was going to be.
Yeah.
Because I had this deep intuitive sense that I still needed to maintain like a reason to wake up on a daily basis with vitality. I needed a fight to stay in. I needed a championship to still be playing for. But at the same time, my body just was like, had it, right?
Yeah. 5 knee surgeries, man.
Yeah. So throughout my playing years, I had ironically been investing in the real estate space and had some good success before I had retired. So it was like, I was just started to ask myself, like, look, is this my exit ramp? I think this is my exit ramp. And so I positioned things such that when I did, in fact, quote unquote, retire, it was retiring by design to effectively pick up this next profession. Right. And so that's what that looked like.
Smart, man. Because a lot of players we were talking out there, the average career is 2 years in the NFL.
That's correct.
I mean, that's not enough to survive off of,
You're right. I mean, look, so it's, you got the survival aspect, but then you got the mental faculties aspect, right? And I don't know, maybe it's just me and call me crazy, but I think as humans, we need to feel that we have work to do.
Shout out to today's sponsor, Notion. Are you spending more time managing your emails than actually running your business? Or worse, have you missed something important because it got lost in the chaos of your inbox? Email hasn't evolved in decades and it shows, but now Notion Mail is changing the game. It's the inbox that links you so you can spend more time building, not emailing. Notion Mail uses AI that learns what matters to you. It can organize your inbox, label messages, draft replies, and even schedule meetings. No manual sorting is needed. If you need to stay focused, you could customize your inbox view by topic, urgency, or sender, whatever keeps you on track. You could fly through repetitive replies with one-click snippets like intros, follow-ups, or thank you notes, even with attachments and scheduling links. Already a Notion user, Notion Mail integrates directly with your docs using them for context, so everything works together in one place. Get Notion Mail for free right now at notion.com/DSH. That's all lowercase, notion.com/DSH. Again, that's notion.com/DSH. Try the inbox that thinks like you.
That we have a purpose and a reason, right? A reason for being, if you will, an assignment. And even the guys that might, play long enough and financially are set up, without that purpose and that reason for being, guys have a lot of challenges and troubles. Not just football players, a lot of professional athletes, entertainers, all of these realms where in certain instances, your shelf life can be somewhat truncated to a minute time frame.
Right.
You end up effectively retired at 30, 32, 33 at the long end of the spectrum, right? And then you sit and you got mathematically at least 40 to 50 years left of lifespan by the numbers, and without having a direct purpose or something directly to pursue and to build. I think that is a disaster waiting to happen. You know
it is, man. They're doing a lot of studies on the brain when people retire, and how it deteriorates much faster.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We have to stay active, right? We have to stay active. I mean, look, we were put here to create. We need to continue creating. I think that anybody that's really built anything and has access levels of fulfillment, they'll be the first to tell you that that's when they feel at their best. That's when they feel at peace. Those that have demons, that's when they're able to escape those demons when they're creating. The scientists call it flow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're able to escape those demons when they're in this process of creation. So I think that it's there's something there for us to know and to kind of keep a keen eye toward. You know what I'm saying?
100%. Because you see these founders that sell their companies.
Yeah.
And then they get all this money and they're the most depressed they've ever been.
That is correct.
Because they're not creating.
That is exactly correct.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, if I had that money, I'd be happy, but it's not that easy.
That highly sought after exit, right?
Yeah. It's not that easy though, man.
Yeah.
You give someone $100 million cash, they might destruct.
Yeah. I love that you brought it up in the context of founders. I got a really close friend, incredibly close friend, and he's, a little bit older and a somewhat a tad bit later chapter in life than me, but he was that very archetype that you're talking about there. It's I think he was I want to say around 50, 5 years ago or so. Maybe a little bit younger, maybe late 40s, but has an exit. I'm talking to the tune of, I want to say their exit was 1.6 billion.
Dang.
And he had a couple partners, but he still had a large equity stake in that overall pie. And we were chatting not too long after it happened. And I spoke to him not saying that you need my advice, right? Who am I to speak on this? But bro, enjoy this, but start thinking about what's going to be next. What's the next kind of big bone to gnaw on, so to speak.
Yeah. Because
it's a little bit of a tricky spot, as you say. It's you're building all these years and then all of a sudden it's gone, right?
Right.
And you got a big cash infusion and your liquidity, to show for it. But as it relates to that purpose and that fulfillment, you're not building anymore. And that's where you can go into like this weird spot. And nonetheless, about a year or two later, he ended up segueing into like this new company that him and his partners then acquired, like a pretty big AI company. He's CEO now. He was like, it's funny what you said ended up being the case. And I needed to get to the next thing. And thankfully, like we had this next thing.
Wow.
And we're going to build like this next thing even bigger.
That's cool.
But it just goes to show you like how that phenomenon just tends to ring true. You know what I'm saying?
All the time, man. It doesn't matter how much money. It could be billions.
Yeah.
But you'll still feel like you're missing something.
Yeah. We need a game. We need a game to play.
Absolutely.
You know
when you were making money in the NFL, how was that relationship like when you started making crazy money as a young person?
Yeah. Ooh, that's a really great question. That can be something that, especially as like young athletes, I don't think there's many guys that are prepared for what that's actually like. Because like I would venture to say like the majority of athletes that are pursuing something seriously like that on that high level, there's got to be like a significant level of like passion for the sport involved in that,
right?
As opposed to it being purely a money grab type situation. Now, of course, what gets glamorized is the cars, the houses, and like the lifestyle. Of course, that stuff does. But at the end of the day, you don't put yourself through that much physically for that many years, just simply for the money, right? There's some true like passion and love for that game for you to be able to get to that level. And having said that, I think that the monetary aspect of it and approaching it in a very like wise and strategic way and understanding what the emotions are going to look like in that scenario, I don't think there can be many players that can say that they were prepared for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially at that young of an age, because you go from zero to overnight multiple millions.
Yeah.
It's like money can tend to have at that point somewhat of a monopoly money type feel.
It's not real, right?
Is stuff even real? Like, then it just, okay, well, what do I do? And they look to the next guy next to them. Well, oh, this guy buys that and that watch and that car and buys these bottles and takes these trips. It's like, okay, this is maybe what I'm supposed to do, right? So I think a lot of guys experience that and go through that. But then you got the wise ones that don't, that stay completely out of it and stay focused on the game. Those are the ones that tend to have the real, like, kind of like longevity in the sport, if you will.
Brady.
Yeah. And look, I think that there's probably some folks that maybe come from different socioeconomic backgrounds that can maybe help with having more of a level head when you get, I mean, now the contracts are like 50, 100 million, like within the blink of an eye, right? So if you have some type of scenario where you're not necessarily coming from nothing, maybe you're a little bit more well-equipped to deal with the emotions and like what that looks like, you know?
Dude.
It was a challenge. It was definitely an adjustment for me.
And now with the NIL, you got Shadur Sanders making $6 million in college.
Yeah.
He was actually making more than he was in college than NFL. Isn't that crazy? The kid's like 18, 19 years old. Yeah. Making millions.
Yeah, I could not imagine that. But like, I can tell you that I think net that, you know, it has to be a positive. You know what I'm saying? The NIL thing.
You think so?
Yeah. Just from the standpoint of like these guys getting to, you know, experience and share in the value that they're creating by the entertainment product that they're putting out there for the audience and for the fans, right? I mean, that's what it's all about at the end of the day, right? This stuff all centers around traffic and eyes and impressions.
Right.
And ad spots. And like, this is what drives these deals and sports, to be quite honest. And so if the talent is out there, you know, putting their bodies at risk, I think that it's rightful that we have this universe now where they get to experience those benefits as well. Now, having said that, it seems like a super complex situation for an 18, 19-year-old to have to deal with decisions that come along with things like that. You got the portal, you got, you know what I mean? You can transfer now and potentially have someone wave or dangle, you know, a few $100,000 in front of your face and say, hey, come transfer over here, you'll get a better opportunity. And by the way, we'll pay you $500K, right? Had I had to deal with that at the age of 20, that would have been a tough situation to turn down. And who's to say you transfer to this school that became this shiny object, they pay you $500,000, but then you end up not having the same type of output and
work ethic,
production,
right? Yeah,
in this new realm, right? And maybe you don't quite make it or mix with that gel with that squad quite the same. And who's to say maybe you don't even play or get as much playing time, and then you sacrificed a potential opportunity where you could have stayed where you were at and then become, you know, a high early round draft pick to the real big dance, but then you took some quick money and then sold yourself short. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So those are the types of decisions that these guys have to make right now. But when you got a world where, you know, people and these players have families that need the funds now, then becomes like a weird internal battle that probably is really hard to turn down.
I could see that. Yeah. Seems like there's a lot of offers being thrown at these kids.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a tricky navigation, man.
And imagine like the pressure that you would likely be receiving from others that possibly around your tight circle that stood to be the benefactors of maybe some of this early cash that you would presumably get, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's tough. Yeah, you got to have a good head on your shoulders.
Right.
Because just being athletic now, that's not enough.
Correct.
You need to be there mentally.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that's what separates the best athletes from everyone else.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. Mentally, psychologically. So much happens with life experience, though. Life, you know, experience can have this way of being like an incredible teacher, but at times it just takes time, right? And I mean, look, I'm an optimist by nature, so I don't believe that we only have one shot. I believe we always will have the door of opportunity there, but those doors of opportunity, will just tend to look a little bit different, be shaped a little bit different, disguised in a different manner. You know what I mean? Yeah. So sometimes that opportunity from like an athletic perspective is most times, all times, it is a very minute window, right? And so early wisdom in that context is very valuable.
Absolutely. How'd you get into the business coaching? That's what you do now, right?
Yeah, performance coaching, health performance space, especially, you know, targeted toward business owners and entrepreneurs. And really what brought me there is just my own kind of organic story arc into the business realm upon retiring from playing ball, right? I dove head first into building my real estate development firm, and you know, we had early successes and were able to do some things that I'm actually proud of looking back. 8-figure projects and deals and putting together big partnerships and whatnot. But what I did is when I made that jump, right, I was so focused on the business that it came to the exclusion of all other things, including my health, right? Not understanding the fact that as a business person, I was still an athlete, right? It's like you hear this saying oftentimes now, entrepreneurs are athletes, and it can sound kind of like a catchphrase or whatever, but it's actually true.
Mark Cuban says it. He said business is the number one sport.
It's so true because look, as goes you, so goes the business, right?
Right.
And so if you aren't there from a mental acuity and a mental clarity standpoint, if you aren't there from an energy standpoint, a vitality standpoint, from a conviction and a confidence standpoint, how do you think you show up in the boardroom, right? That emanates off you, that lack of certainty, that lack of confidence, clarity, and things of that nature. And oftentimes, I think like one of the biggest epidemics we got going on right now is just this burnout and brain fog that so many business owners and entrepreneurs go through, because it can be a lot. juggling family, building and scaling a business, and health all at the same time, while at the same time in a realm of social media where there's constant comparisons to competitors and what they're doing, what have you, right?
100%.
And so it's like, as entrepreneurs, we have so much on our plate, and it's so easy to focus directly on what is the constraint. The constraint is the business, and then let the health aspect kind of just fall by the wayside. Say, I'll take care of my health 10 years from now when I exit this business, right? And I have all these proceeds to then. But what about the cats that don't make it there, right? And like I said, the decision-making clarity, you can't put a price on that, right? And that happened with me early in those early days. Within the first year of retirement and building and scaling this business, the business was growing, but I was growing as well. I put on 30 pounds. I'm fatigued and burnt out. And I think doing so much training all those years as an athlete, I had this like erroneous idea that I was done training, that I didn't need it anymore, that I needed to focus exclusively on like my cognitive pursuits and my intellectual pursuits, right? But at the end of the day, I very soon found out these things go hand in hand, right? And we need to be able to focus on both. And so that's where my passion grew on how do I access these levels of peak performance. So I just passionately went on this pursuit to like figure out how to optimize myself from like a health and performance standpoint. Yeah. Over like a 6 and 7 year period as I was building and scaling this real estate development company. And 2022 rolled around. We're doing one of the biggest deals of my lifetime right before they
pandemic.
Right before the inflation in connection with the pandemic. And all right before that, inflation really took off, and they start hiking rates, and we got a 9-figure deal in contract, right? Yeah. We're out, and me and along with a partner, we're out raising $200 million in equity to take down this big asset in LA. And obviously the music stops when you get a 75 basis point rate hike, right? Gosh. And so look, I mean, at that point, I did some soul searching, because we fought for about 6 months trying to push this thing through. But at the end of the day, the writing was on the wall, right? It's like, this deal does not work in this universe now. The way our capital markets environment shifted and our economy shifted. And that was my opportunity to really take a step back and really recalibrate, if you will. And I started to really ask myself, like, where does my passion truly lie, and where am I really truly playing to my strengths? And that's when I realized this army that I built around me of all of like the most sophisticated tip of the spear, like, you know, performance health professionals around the country. And I had this stable of folks behind me. And I realized that there's such a void in the marketplace for business owners and entrepreneurs that leave this aspect of themselves by the wayside and don't focus on it. And at that point, it, you know, was a calling, or whatever you want to call it, that I just realized this is where I'm supposed to be, to get this message out there and help business owners and entrepreneurs tap into this peak level of their own vitality, such that they can perform at their peak in their businesses, perform at their peak with their families, wake up their youthfulness and vitality again. Yeah. Extend their lifespan, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, it's all at the tip of our fingers. We just have to kind of like approach it with a little bit of discipline and strategy and reach out and grab it, right? And so that's really the underpinnings of what we're doing now, and our, you know, our performance coaching and health performance, you know, community that we're scaling and building. That's needed, man. I see a lot of my business owner friends, entrepreneurs, their health is just so bad, and their relationships are terrible. Yeah, I lost friends, man. Same. I've lost friends that, I mean, like early 40s, like from an optic standpoint, the picture of health, incredible people, incredible like intellectual business minds, building massive firms, investment firms, private equity, VC, and all of a sudden, it's Widowmaker out of nowhere. Yeah. Gone. Family, all of these things left behind, and proceeds and shares in their firm and all that, and like just starting to have some of the big exits in in the business and whatnot.
Makes you think like,
then no longer here to actually reap those rewards, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy to see that. And it's been more than one instance. And so it's like those scenarios like that speak even further to like the void in the marketplace and the need for this focus. You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%. Because you never know, man. You could be working 20 hours a day and you're in your 30s, you know? It's a lot of stress on the body over time.
It is.
You know?
It really is. Psychologically, it's a lot. Mentally, it's a lot. And it presents as anxiety, depression, burnout, and all these things. But then how does it then ultimately manifest if you don't correct it?
Yeah.
In true dis-ease, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's then you just kind of like your hope that it's not too late, right? But it truly does not have to be that way. That's the thing, right?
Yep.
These things can work in concert and hand in hand, right? And it's just like, for instance, as an example, if I think you're pretty much you're into like the health and longevity.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things that I think is kind of like a parallel that I tend to look at, right, is that like you have people like Brian Johnson, for instance, that pursue the longevity container, right? But at the same time, through pursuing the performance or the aesthetic or the fat loss, you capture the longevity as well, right? And so that's kind of like where like the sweet spot where that's always kind of like intrigued me, because I've tended to always be very performance focused. It might be a function of age. I mean, I'm 39, I'm not 50 or 55. And so maybe that's probably a function of its underpinning, right? This performance focus.
Yeah.
But the beauty of it is for people that are very type A that want to perform better, you can simply optimize to perform healthfully at your peak. And then you're able to like capture this health and longevity as well, right?
Yeah.
So I'm making examples to like the fact that these things can work in parallel and in concert together, right? And be like a mutually beneficial scenario, right? You don't have to sacrifice time and energy spent in the business to pursue health and performance. You can actually pursue health and performance as a strategic competitive advantage in your business.
I agree.
Performance, right? And that's the way that I've always seen it, right? I was always seeking to access this state of peak performance with the guys and the ulterior motive of becoming a better performer at the negotiation table. We're doing big deals. When we're sitting in front of, you know, an institutional investor, to not be reaching for words, to be verbally fluent, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And clear and, you know, convicted in my presence and in my position. That's so important with everything that we do, right? And so I think that's the way that it should be viewed. That's the way I view it. And we're just seeking to build, you know, a movement of individuals that see it that way as well.
I love it, man. What are the biggest problems you're seeing in the people you're coaching right now? Is it a confidence thing, or where are you seeing problems?
I think, to be quite honest, it's a lack of cohesiveness. And so it's like, what do I mean by that? I think that what we all do, and like this is what I did, is we listen to all the health experts, listen to all the podcasts, we read the books, and this stuff is incredible. It's very much needed. And then we must then ultimately go about attempting to actually implement vis-a-vis patching together our own solutions on things, right? Effectively, what is this? This is trial and error. And so just by the nature of what trial and error truly is, it takes time. It takes years and it takes mistakes to be able to figure this stuff out. It took me years to figure it out.
Yeah.
And what I ultimately realized is there weren't very many folks out there that had packaged a solution that was actually custom built for high performers, for business people, for entrepreneurs that also have families that aren't looking to spend 3-4 hours a day in the gym, right? That aren't exclusively and explicitly focused on the health and nutrition side, but also are focused on the health and longevity side, and, you know, are keen to looking at advanced blood work and doing those check-ins and having real like customized plans, right? These things were all separate solutions, but had never been like separate optimizations, if you will, but had never been like synergistically combined.
They didn't connect the dots on them.
That's correct. And I went through each one of these different realms individually until I realized, and obviously I had to kiss a few frogs until I found the right people. But then when I did find the right people in each one of these verticals, like the functional health vertical, actual like blood work every 3 to 6 months or whatever, really tracking like the critical biomarkers, the fitness and the training aspect, the nutrition aspect, the time management aspect, the restoration and the recovery aspect that I like to refer to as really just this realm of energy, like our actual energy, sleep optimization. It's like everyone's pursuing all these things separately when they need to work in concert as a bespoke plan. And it just dawned on me, you know, a couple of years ago, it's like, that's where kind of the genius lies. It's in like synergizing these optimizations. And that's really been the foundation and the underpinning of what we've done, where it's like our functional medicine team is second to none, sits at the foundation of everything, and builds a health plan and protocol for everyone that decides to like be decisive and, you know, join the movement, right? And then it's based around that person's individualized goals, right, and aspirations. And then once that foundation is then set, you know where your biomarkers and what have you are at. You know your baseline. We know where we're trying to get them. It's like then at that point we're incorporating the rest of these verticals: the training, the nutrition, time management, energy management, to then like get to this eureka of peak performance, which we're all looking for, right?
Yeah. I love that, man.
To be able to do it like you, bang out 50 podcasts.
I mean, dude, you know? I'll say this crazy story, but I didn't go to the gym for 5 years.
Yeah.
My first 5 years of entrepreneurship. Yeah. And my physical health was really bad. My mental health had a lot of issues.
That's the big one.
I was on Xanax. I was on clonazepam. I couldn't even talk to people. And it wasn't healthy, man. Even though I was making money, like it wasn't good. So when I finally started getting in the gym, playing basketball and stuff, it helped me build some confidence. It actually made me a better entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You know, fixing my physical health.
It's been a game changer for me. I mean, look, to be quite honest, it completely like changed my life. Because as you said, there was that period of time where I just completely like let it go by the wayside and like let myself go.
Yeah.
And it's like you're burning the wick at both ends as well. It's like, because what can tend to happen, especially in like the early days of the business, I remember I'm building my real estate firm and what have you. And a lot of my tight circle and like close friends, they were in more of like this 7th, 8th, 9th inning of their businesses, right? Very mature businesses, big businesses. And these were guys that were like 10, 15, 20 years older than me. And a lot of times they had big teams. So they were having fun as well. So it's like, these are my buddies. I want to be out having fun with them also. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
While I'm in the early stages of building a company and I don't have a team yet, right? So it's like this scenario where it's like I'm burning the wick at both ends. Because it's like I'm, you know, fostering these relationships with my close friends that are already like by conventional standards successful in their professions, right? And very like, their businesses are very mature and they're traveling and doing the Europe trip every summer and all that stuff, as is the thing. And, but then I'm the CEO, chief everything officer as well as trying to do this other stuff too. It's like you're burning the wick at both ends. And then what tends to happen? The weight gain, the burnout, you know, the unhealthy lifestyle. There's no time to train. There's no energy to train, you know, eating food that's not necessarily conducive to vitality and high energy, right? So then how does that play out in the business with the decisions that you're making? It is a challenge to be effective in your work when psychologically you're dealing with emotional situations that aren't positive.
Oh
right?
yeah.
A lot of time we escape to our work, but I don't think that that's necessarily a healthy relationship either. Right? We want to find a way to optimize that to have a healthier relationship to both of these things, like our health and our work.
I agree, man. That resonated with me a lot because I used to compare myself too. Social media makes it easy to do that.
It does.
And you're comparing yourself on someone level 99 when you're starting out at level 1.
Yeah.
And then you get in your head.
Yeah.
But they've had 10, 15 years head start on you.
Yeah. And you know, the other thing that I tend to notice as well is the people that we admire, we have to really be discerning in the aspects of individuals that we admire. Like for me, for instance, there are like some folks that have more mature businesses by conventional standards than me at various points in my life. I think it's very productive to admire folks that have that, but then still maintain like the level-headedness and the grit to work like it's day one. Those are the things that you admire. But at the same time, you also have to understand that in addition to that, where it looks like maybe some of these people have unlimited output and bandwidth, they have systems set up as well and teams backing them up such that they're able to be, 10 times more effective than someone that's just getting started.
Yeah.
And it's just you and a couple like early team members, right? And so those are always like the things that you kind of keep a level-headed, point of reference on, I guess.
And you also got to admire certain aspects of people.
Yeah.
Not praise their entire life. Because some people are really good at business, but not in their personal life.
That's correct.
And you know what I mean?
And you tend to only see them in one realm.
Right. You get biased.
You assume that since they're like this in this one very narrow area, that this, plays out in all areas of their life, which you don't necessarily know that.
Usually it's not the case. When you see someone crushing one thing, it's very rare they can do what you do, which is incorporate everything and be good at everything, Yeah. I'm glad I'm there now. Like I take physical health serious, mental health, business. But before I was really neglecting certain aspects of it. And if I kept going down that road, man, would have been bad.
It's a discipline though, right?
Yeah, it is.
Even like, especially like if you look at like the recovery aspect, the rest aspect and things of that nature. That's one of the disciplines that I even to this day constantly like reminding myself of. Because you got this like type A mentality where you're so driven and like focused on build. You always want, well, what do they say is like, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
Right? So you want to always pick up that hammer and just keep hammering away. But at the same time, there's a wise aspect of us that knows sometimes the answers, they come in the silence. You oscillate down.
100%, dude.
And you got to remember that, right?
No, you do. Because I didn't take a vacation for 5 years. Yeah. Now I take at least 2 a year.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah, I sauna every day and just reflect on how the day went.
Yeah.
It's really important to take that time to just rest and recover.
You know what's crazy about you saying that is, I do the sauna as well. That's a big one. When you said that about the vacations, I don't know why it just popped in my mind. I don't know if you ever heard about the thing. I don't know. Do you know Sam Evans? I don't know him.
Sam Evans?
Yeah, Sam Evans. I don't know him personally, but I remember one time years ago, he was talking about like his process for like taking breaks and vacations. And he like planned out the vacations like a whole year in advance. And it was like, it wasn't normal weekends, but he like broke up the week, the month in like this super strategic way, such that I want to say, if I remember correctly, it was like at the end of each month, there was always like this 5-day weekend where it was like an actual real vacation. Where it was like, he like compressed, weekends and vacation times, baked them in. And the philosophy behind it was kind of unique in that it's like, if you don't do that, then you are almost in a way, it's a pessimistic energy, space where it's like you are uncertain as to whether you'll do enough work to deserve getting this time off. Right?
Interesting.
Whereas when you plan it out ahead of time, it's like it's a signal to your subconscious where it's like, yeah, I know that I'm going to crush it, that these vacations that come at the end of each month are going to be well due and well received.
Smart. That is interesting. It makes you want to work harder, right?
Yeah. And it's like, you have that on the calendar to look forward to. And it, gives you some deadlines to work within as well.
Wow. I'm going to look into that. Sam Ovens is brilliant, though. I watched his course like years ago about organization.
He's a legend back then, huh?
Legend. And now he's got school, right? Yep. With Hormozy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably going to turn into something big.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a deadly combo right there. Yeah. Hormozy and Ovens.
Right.
Well, man, where could people get in touch with you and potentially become a client and everything?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, the main hub is my Instagram, @LarryEnglish_. And then for any folks looking to like get involved and learn more about the movement, it's MindBodyMastery.com/training.
I love it.
Just go to MindBodyMastery.com. That'll link them to it. Want to know specifically about our process and our program, MindBodyMastery.com/training is great, like video explainer around.
Perfect. Check it out, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
that was fun. See you at a celebrity poker tournament, hopefully.
Yes, sir.
Let's go. Check them out, guys.
Appreciate it.